Good morning. I'm in Vancouver, Washington. I stopped off here on my way south. I'm going to spend a couple hours here. Right now I'm at the Waterfront Renaissance Park. We have the Columbia River and the interstate bridge behind me. This fog is starting to burn off, so that'll be nice to get some good views. Here in a little bit, I'm going to take the trail underneath the interstate bridge into the downtown area. So here we go. Okay, I'm going to wait for the fog to burn off before going to the downtown area. So the trail does go a little bit east. So I'll probably go down that way a little bit and then we'll head into the downtown area. I'm walking east now on the Columbia River Renaissance Trail. We'll walk down this for a little bit, we'll turn around, and this trail is the one that actually goes under the interstate bridge. I've walked just under a mile and it seems like the trail doesn't go much further. There's a few restaurants, shops, and hotels down here. I'm going to head back now. I'm back at the interstate bridge, and some people might call it something different, but this seems to be the most common name for it. It carries Interstate 5 over the Columbia River, and if you're not familiar with it, it's two separate bridges. The first one opened in 1917 and the second one opened in 1958. I'm at the Waterfront Park now, and it looks like they've spent quite a bit of money on this park. There's also a lot of construction in this area. This little structure right here talks about the Columbia River, which is the fourth largest river in the United States. The backside had a pretty cool topographical map of the Columbia River catch basin. These pieces of equipment were discovered from an old mill when they were redeveloping the waterfront. I've reached the west end of the Waterfront Park. I'm going to quickly walk through this area that's being redeveloped. As you can see, there's construction going on all over the place in this area of Vancouver. I'm moving along now, and I'm at Fort Vancouver. The building you see in front of us is probably the original fort, and over time it got built up. There's some more modern buildings. Although this is a historic site, I suspect that there is some military operations still going on here. On one of the maps, I saw a building labeled AFES Shopette. AFES is the Army and Air Force Exchange Service. They run all the shops and restaurants on Army and Air Force installations worldwide. Fort Vancouver is a pretty big site, so we'll end up making several stops. So here we go. Okay, here is a person's airfield. It was probably originally created by the Army Air Corps, but now it's just a general aviation airport, mostly just private planes, and it has been quite busy. Okay, we're looking at one of the hangars for the Army Air Corps. It's been converted into a museum now. If you're not familiar, the Air Force was actually created out of the Army Air Corps, I think in 1947. Here are some of the newer buildings on Fort Vancouver, and I use the word new loosely as many of them were built originally prior to 1940, although I suspect most of them have been renovated. In fact, one is currently being renovated. I'm at Officer Row now. These would have been the houses for Army officers. It looks like each house is now being sponsored by an organization or business. I'm in front of Officer Row, and I'm guessing this would have been the parade field for the fort. Some of these buildings have been repurposed and are currently in use. In this case, it was being used by the Gifford-Pinot National Forest. I'm at the west end of the parade field, and there's one more officer house. This one was used by General O.O. Howard. I'm going to wrap up Fort Vancouver here. There was way more to see than I anticipated. I didn't even go into the original fort or the Army Air Corps Museum, and there's a couple other historical buildings that I skipped, so I'm going to move along now. Okay, for the final stop here in Vancouver, I'm at the Amtrak station. Kind of find this area interesting with all the trains, and then there's a scrap metal recycler over here. The day took a lot longer than I anticipated. I ended up seeing and doing a lot more than I anticipated, but there you go, Vancouver, Washington.